So here's a video because why the fuck not? We're gonna make the Universal monsters into RWBY characters. Because why not? Let's make the Universal monsters and fit them in the RWBY universe. So let's start off with let's go by continuity. Like, let's go by that. So starting off, we're not going to do Dracula first. We're going to do the Phantom of the Opera. So how would the Phantom of the Opera be in the RWBY universe? So this version would be that it is a former assassin for Atlas by the name of Eric, who also loved music. His semblance was that he could basically, like, his semblance isn't really like music related. It's more well, actually it is. I take that back. His semblance is that his voice has like a hypnotic effect on people. He also is an assassin. It was a former assassin, as well as he was a brilliant designer in traps. So yeah, after his time was done in Atlas, he decided to become like what he always wanted to be, a composer. He always wanted to be a composer and a violinist for an opera group that he always admired, even as a child. However, Ironwood wasn't going to let him walk away. Ironwood was in no way, shape, or form going to let him walk away from just being an assassin. It was like letting a mad dog loose for Ironwood. So assassins came in and attacked Eric one night and left him. And while he fought them, the events left him brutally scarred, and he was left for dead. However, with Ironwood thinking, the guy's dead, Eric retreated into the catacombs of Mantle, and is now considered the Phantom of this opera building. So there you go, Phantom of the Opera. So let's move on to Dracula. So Dracula, in this continuity, was a warlord way before, like, we're talking like ancient times. We're talking like back when the kingdoms were still at war with each other. There were warlords, and the Grimm hadn't existed yet. So in here, Vlad Tepes was a warlord and a conqueror. However, that kind of came to a screeching, bloody halt when he ran into Salem one day. He ran into Salem and did battle with her, thinking it was just a foe to conquer. But what happened was Salem beat the shit out of him and left him for dead. In his mad quest to find the same kind of power he did, he found the same kind of pool that Salem had taken and drowned and drenched himself and like dived into it, giving him not only immortality but also, unfortunately, a mad thirst for blood. It's also worth noting that in here Dracula is a bat faunus. He is also considered in the lore of the faunus, he is considered like a war hero, kind of like how Vlad Tepes historically is considered a war hero by Romani population in present day. So yeah, Vlad Tepes is considered in here. Dracula was considered an ancient war hero to the faunus, who fought like he was battling to carve out a faunus kingdom. However, the effects that making him immortal made him vastly different, in that while he was immortal now, he needed to feed. He needed, and the only way he could get his sustenance was through human blood and faunus blood. So it more or less accentuated his because he was always a bat faunus, but the mutation made him more like vampiric. So there you go. His semblance is that he can it's twisted by the darkness of the Grimm energy that he can control. He can turn to mist, he can turn to mist, a big wolf. He can also turn into a giant bat. And yeah, he also has an array of abilities. And now he lives in like a lonely place he lives in like a lonely tower with his 3 brides, and is now contemplating like his one-day war with Salem again. So let's move on to our next one, Frankenstein's Monster and the Bride. So this version of Frankenstein and the Bride are that in this storyline, they were also part of a project to same way Penny's creator made her, but it was a different project in that rather than make the perfect robot soldier, it was make a soldier from other soldiers. So in here, this version of Victor Frankenstein was had created the monster from other pieces of former huntsmen, and Ironwood was immediately like, "What the fuck is that?" and tried to kill it. It escaped, and in doing so, it fled and learned about human life and became more of a more intellectual being. However, the Frankenstein monster's semblance, as well as the Bride, who also was created and the monster returned for the Bride, they basically can just use the body parts. They can use the semblances of the dead huntsman they're made from. So they can just instantly switch in between multitudes of semblances. Isn't that just a wee bit fucked up? I know, right? Anyway, next up we have, of course, we're going through the line of through continuity, the Mummy. So this version of Imhotep is that he way long ago, when the civilizations of Remnant were still young, Imhotep in here was one of the founding members of one of the first societies of Remnant. However, he kind of got a little power hungry, and that led to him being entombed. However, his semblance kind of kept him alive, in that it was immortal, and also it was kind of mutating, because he was one of the first people to make a deal with the Dark God, so he's kind of in a state of unliving death. And also a form of decay. His semblance is that he can just drain people of their life force. That's his whole thing, is that he can just drain them and make himself more whole throughout it. So moving on now to the Invisible Man. Since we're moving through like movie appearances, the Invisible Man's in here was a former scientist who worked in Beacon. However, Jack Griffin in this continuity never had an abnormality where he was never born with a semblance, and he always got picked on for that. He was, however, had an ingenious mind. However, he needed, chemicals and whatnot in order to complete his experiments. This led to him creating a suit that is powered by dust. He was employed by the Schnee Dust Company to make a new kind of weapon they could sell. And what happened was Jack Griffin created a camouflage suit that's powered by dust. But however, he took it for himself because the side effect of the suit is that it messes with your mental stability. So the more Jack uses the suit, the more mentally unstable he becomes. It also increases his strength. So moving on now to the Wolfman. The Wolfman is another one where this is another Schnee Dust Company fuck up. In here, the Schnee Dust Company the Schnee Company was trying to figure out how to combat Faunus, and they were trying to use a drug that they could slip into Faunus food and kill off the bloodlines, and also and cause the Faunus DNA to slowly die out. So they tested it on a young man who could possibly pass the gene along, of a guy of a noble house whose name is Larry Talbot. The reason why they used it on him was because the Talbots weren't cool with the Schnee, because they weren't a bunch of racist assholes like the Schnee were. So Weiss's father, being the uncomparable dick that he is, gave him that little sedative in his drink one day, and it had a backfiring because he knew that Talbot's mother was a Faunus. And what happened is it just raged out of... Instead of killing that part of him, it accentuated it tenfold and made him a more monstrous Faunus, this big wolf Faunus. So there you go. And finally, we have the creature from the Black Lagoon. The creature from the Black Lagoon is neither Faunus nor man. In this continuity, the creature is instead much like how he's the missing link between man and the Precambrian era. the Gill Man in this in the realm of, world of Remnant is the missing link between man and Faunus, and it's the last of its kind, and will die keeping those secrets to itself. So there you go, guys. A total video, a total vid of why the fuck nottery right here. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of these RWBY versions of the Universal monsters? Just comment below, and let me know what your versions would be of the Universal monsters. Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.